Later this morning, I'll introduce a continuing resolution that will ensure continuous funding for the federal government. The measure will provide the resources necessary to continue normal operations through February the 8th.
Mitch McConnell, a moment ago on the Senate floor, introducing a short-term spending bill only 2 days ago to avoid that partial government shutdown. It appears Republicans may have gotten President Trump to come around to a compromise. Our headliner today, House Majority Whip Steve Scalise. How you doing, sir? Back there in Louisiana. Thank you for spending part of your day with us here today. What do you make of the news? They going to get this done?
Julie. Hey, good to be with y'all. Obviously, the Senate and the House have been working with President Trump to make sure that we pass a bill that he supports, that gives him the tools he needs to continue building wall. Obviously, there's a lot more that needs to be done. And if the negotiation is going to go until February, one of the good things about that is that the State of the Union will be right before the end of that next funding resolution, which means the president has a real good opportunity to go to the country, make a case at the State of the Union for why Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are on the wrong side of this issue, not wanting to keep our country safe when the president's fighting to build the wall.
Your state colleague, Senator Kennedy, was with us about an hour ago. I don't know if you saw his interview or not, but he says Republicans missed a golden opportunity last night in this criminal justice bill. He was making out the case that Democrats wanted this very badly. It passed 87-12. All 12 votes in the nay section were Republicans. And you could have, well, I'll let Senator Kennedy make the point here. Watch.
I don't think we're going to get the money for the border wall because I think Mrs. Pelosi is not going to give an inch because she wants to be the next speaker, and the new House of Representatives is going to be a lot more liberal than before, and they're not going to let her be speaker. I think we missed an opportunity here.
Yeah, he went on to say that you had Democrats where you wanted them, and you could have gone ahead and negotiated with them over this border wall. Why did that not happen?
Well, what he's talking about is what happened in the Senate or what shouldn't have happened in the Senate. I'm in the House. There's a lot of things I disagree with the Senate on in terms of the way that they operate. What we are focused on in the House is working with the president to get him the tools that he needs. And look, I mean, one of the things that President Trump said in that meeting last week, he acknowledged that Nancy Pelosi was having trouble getting the votes to become speaker. He even offered to help her to get there. But he also knows that after that vote for speaker, there is going to be a better ability for him to negotiate. And this gives him another chance to go in the State of the Union address and make that case to the entire country.
You know, you just heard Senator Kennedy there talking about the wall and Pelosi, but he also mentioned that walls work. The president today tweeted the following on border funding. In our country, so much money has been poured down the drain for so many years. But when it comes to border security in the military, the Democrats fight to the death. We won on the military, which is being completely rebuilt. One way or the other, we will win on the wall. How so will Republicans be able to eventually get this wall? They say inadvertently Mexico would pay for it through NAFTA. What do you say to that?
Well, President Trump is correct in saying, number one, that he made it a priority to rebuild our nation's military, and we were able to deliver on that, worked with the president to get that done, and that's happening right now. In fact, we just approved a few weeks ago the first pay raise for our men and women in uniform in years, something they deserve. President Trump signed that into law. And so now what he's saying is that Mexico will pay for the wall through the newly renegotiated NAFTA, which, you know, is dealing with Mexico and Canada. And so if that's going to be the case, in the meantime, he still has the ability to build some more wall, and he said he can do it a lot cheaper than what the earlier estimates are. And I don't doubt that because President Trump knows how to build things. He knows how to negotiate, get what he wants. I want to see the president get what he needs to keep our country safe. It's been his top priority. He's done a great job of that, by the way. If you look at what he's doing, just making a statement with this caravan. He's standing up. He even used the military and said, we're not going to let people in that want to come here and attack our Border Patrol agents. There's over 600 known convicted criminals in the caravan, drug traffickers that are part of it, and he's keeping the country safe.
No. Paul Ryan has a farewell address in about 2.5 hours from now. Longtime colleague of yours, 20 years in Washington. What's his legacy as he says goodbye?
Paul Ryan's biggest legacy as Speaker, of course, is going to be the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. And, you know, we worked very closely with the president. But this was something that Paul made as a signature of his time in Congress. From when he came to Congress, he wanted to reform our nation's tax code. and we were able to do it. And look at what it's doing to get our economy back on track. You know, one of the other things that Paul did is start to finally create an ability for people to talk about reforming these broken mandatory spending programs. And look at Medicare alone. Medicare is right now headed for bankruptcy in the next 8 years if nothing is done. And Paul was at least able to start a conversation and actually have votes in the House where we said we're willing to save Medicare from bankruptcy, pass a plan that will save it so that seniors are able to get that promise that was made to them. Every Democrat voted no, and what they're saying, Democrats are saying, is let Medicare go bankrupt. And Paul started the ability for people to touch what was called the third rail of politics and to finally say we can reform some of these broken programs and save them for future generations.
You consider that a
seniors.
success?
Well, I think the fact that he was able to start that conversation was really important. On the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, that is signed into law now. First time in over 30 years that we were able to reform the tax code. President Trump made it a signature achievement of his, and it's something that's actually working for families right now. They have more money in their paychecks. Here at Christmas, a lot of people are able to buy more Christmas presents because they have more money in their pockets. Pelosi, by the way, wants to take that away. She wants to reverse the tax cuts. I know President Trump isn't going to let it happen. We're not going to let it happen.
Yeah, I don't think voters would. I mean, that could be an unpopular decision, and she clearly wants to win over a popularity contest. I mean, if you think about it, I just want to ask you, moving forward into the new year, how might Democrats learn from what's happening right now? The president willing to negotiate when it comes to this border wall funding in order to prevent the government from a shutdown. How might this help smooth things out finally in Washington come January?
Well, first of all, President Trump is going to only support something that advances his position. You know, and he's laid out a number of things that he wants to do to keep America safe and build the wall. And we're going to continue working with him on that. If there's an opportunity for Nancy Pelosi to work with him, President Trump has already said he'll do that. But if she's going to try to reverse the successes that we've made, she's going to try to take the tax cuts away, President Trump is not going to let that happen because he can veto anything that comes out of the House. The Senate will have to also, as a Republican majority, be able to block that. But we're going to be fighting to expose the things that they're doing. And if they're going to try to move an agenda that's kind of more in line with their socialist caucus right now, they've moved so far to the left that there are socialists winning elections in Democrat primaries right now. That's going to be a problem for Nancy Pelosi, but we're not going to let that happen. And ultimately, the president's not going to make sure any of that gets signed into law.
Sir, thank you for your time. I wish you a happy holiday, Merry Christmas, all that good stuff. Thank
Great
you,
seeing you.
Louisiana.
Bill and Julie, hey, Merry Christmas to y'all, too.
Thank you.